Welcome. Good Morgen. Buenos dias. Bonjour. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the universe. Welcome to the universe. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. My name is Jack Doggett, and I'm very pleased to be your worship leader for today's service. Each week, we gather in community to refocus on the things that are most important in our lives, remembering who we are and what we are for. It's a serious task done joyfully, playfully, intentionally. It is a time for spiritual practice, for our essential work as human beings, a time to return to the wells from which we draw meaning and sustenance. Welcome to those of us who are joining us online. We are delighted you're here. This congregation is all of us together, in person and online. And if you're a new online visitor, you'll find a link to our visitor form in the video description, and we would love to connect with you. 2 invitations for January. This coming Friday is our monthly community night potluck. Bring a dish to share and gather for a cozy all-ages movie night. And then Saturday the 11th is our winter camp-in. Bring a tent and a sleeping bag. That's what it says here. And after food and activities, pitch your campsite here in the church for an all-ages sleepover. Sleep optional, I believe. And one invitation for today, after the service, Reverend David and our community and connections manager, Scott, will be in the listening room at 12:15 for information, conversation, and question and answer, especially for anyone new to the community who would like to learn more. We now invite all those gathered in our various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we say aloud our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. We begin by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. It's a cup of life, sustenance to quench our spirit's thirst, and a cup of celebration and resolve, a flame of hope, a light to warm our souls and guide us home. Instead of one person sharing a few words and lighting our chalice today, we're going to do it all together. Here's how it works. Find a person next to you or close by. You'll each have 1 minute to answer the questions I'm going to pose. 1 minute to practice sustained, compassionate attention. For the folks online, if you'd like to post in the chat, it is not saved, so whatever you write there will only be visible during the service. So we're going to do this for a minute on each side, and I'll ring the gong, and then you can change to be the listener on the other side. And since Mark just came in, somebody explain it to him, okay? He'll get the idea quickly. So the first question is, what brought you here this morning? So I'll put 60 seconds on the clock for the first person, and then I'll ring the bell when it's time to change. So I'm curious, just answer for yourself. Did that minute seem like a short period of time or a long period of time? Yeah? Maybe there's an extrovert-introvert thing going on here. I don't know. So the second question, and I'll take a moment to let this sink in before I ring the bell to start. What are you ready to leave behind as this year ends? Let's take a few deep breaths and let that question sink in. What are you ready to leave behind as this year ends? So, feel free to start sharing with the person next to you. Such a great buzz in the room.
Was it all recorded?
I always feel a little bit badly, ringing the bell. Stop connecting with each other. Stop enjoying one another's company. But in that spirit of community and connection, we'll light the chalice this morning. There's an old story about how hard it is to let go of things. Maybe you've heard this or some version. A senior monk and a junior monk are traveling together on a pilgrimage. And at one point they come to a river with a strong current. And as they're preparing to sort of brace themselves and cross the river, they see a young, beautiful woman also attempting to cross. And she asks them, "Will you help me cross to the other side?" They glance at each other because they've taken a vow not to have any physical contact with a woman, and the answer, it seemed, would have to be no, except without a word. The older monk picks up the woman, carries her across the river, places her gently on the other side, and they continue their journey. Well, the younger monk is speechless, and after rejoining his companion, an hour passes with nothing said between them, and 2 and then 3. They sleep that night under trees by the roadside and start chatting again. Take the journey back up in the morning, and the road goes on ahead on their pilgrimage route. They cross more rivers. They climb over the shoulders of mountains. They go through forests and plains on the way, and they talk along the way about everything and nothing, though the younger always returns eventually to silence. They camp under the stars, their gifted rooms at inns. They make the proper prayers at roadside shrines, and they sit patiently in deep listening with fellow travelers, until at last they reach their destination, this monastery which they've been traveling to for weeks. At dinner that night, eating their fill after this long, lean journey, the younger monk is quietly angry still until he finally blurts out, "Listen, we're not permitted to touch a woman. How could you carry that woman on your shoulders?" And the older monk looks at him and says, "Listen, I set her down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her all these miles later?" We turn towards the new year, unwinding this old one behind us, letting it go, but first taking a final glimpse back over our shoulder to reckon with everything that unfolded. What is it that you need to let go of? What is it that you are still carrying with you, that you are, perhaps, ready to set down at last? In this past year, has there been something? Is there a person, a place, a habit, a grudge, an anger, a resentment that's been a hindrance to your well-being? Is there something you feel called to say no to let go of in this new year? Coming in, you got, hopefully, a little slip of purple, almost tissue paper. And if you didn't, will you raise your hand? Because Susan can come around and give you one and a pencil. There are a few folks in the back, on the sides. Keep your hands up till you get it. This is a piece of joss paper. It burns quickly. There's also, you may have a piece of cardstock. Don't burn that one. But take this piece, this little slip of dark purple paper, and reflect on the year behind you. What's something that you want to let go of? Write it down, a word or a few, on that bit of paper as best you can. Nobody's going to see this except for you and the flame, because later in the service, you're going to come forward and burn those away and let them go behind you in the old year. What part of your life, what things or ideas, what people, what ways of living have become an obstacle for you? What's the thing that served you well in the past, that was adaptive then, that helped you, that now you need to let go of? Burning this slip of paper, which we'll do later on in the service, it doesn't mean that the whole process of letting go is complete and done. Ritual is a kind of setting intention. Someone told me years ago, he said, "I have the hardest time thinking my way into a different way of acting. I have a much easier way acting my way into a different way of thinking." Ritual is a kind of doing that. It's a variety of that. It's this action you take with your body to help to make a change on the inside. It's a setting intention that we'll do when we burn these. Setting an intention to continue a process of letting go. Letting go of the past is also about waking up to the present, making room for it. We stop replaying these old tapes going over and over in our brains in order to hear the music of this moment, in order to hear what's actually going on now. To revisit these difficult things of the past year, to contemplate what you want to leave behind. This is not a dour, depressing task. This is not a time for beating yourself up. This is an invitation to make space for more full living. It's an invitation to wake up in body and spirit. And with that invitation, will you rise as you're able, and we'll join together in singing.
So good morning. My name is Robin. This is Bill, and we are going to be helping out with the hymns today. Our first hymn is Wake Now My Senses. Everyone knows it. Yahoo. Woohoo. Here we go. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
Our kids are with us at the 9 o'clock service. There's religious education. We tell them sometimes wisdom stories or practices. We sing with them. But it sometimes means that y'all don't get enough wisdom stories. So here's the story I told them. See if you can be as wise. It's called Little Tree by Lauren Long. It goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a little tree filled with little leaves, who was surrounded by other little trees with little leaves of their own. And in the heat of the long summer days, little tree's leaves kept him cool, and the squirrels would climb on his branches to play, and the mourning dove landed in him and sang her fluty song, and little tree was sure to grow up big and strong. Autumn arrived, and cool winds filled the air, and the wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches, ruffled his leaves. And like it does, the air grew cold, and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, became yellow and red and orange. And one by one, they started to drop their leaves, but not Little Tree, who hugged his leaves tight and did not let them go. "Hello, Little Tree," said Squirrel. "You are supposed to drop your leaves now." But Little Tree was unsure. What would he do without leaves? Winter came, And a deer came through in the snow, nuzzling underneath to find food to eat. And I asked the little tree, what are you doing with leaves still on you in the middle of winter? But the little tree just hugged his leaves tight. And springtime arrived, and the little forest burst into life again, and the trees grew bright new leaves, that pale green, the first green of leaves coming out in spring. It will happen someday. And the squirrels came back into the branches and played, and the mourning dove sang her fluty song again, and the seasons kept on coming and going. And still Little Tree held on to those leaves. A duckling came by quacking, "Little Tree, your leaves are brown. Are you sick?" A fox came by and said, "Little Tree, it's autumn. It is time for you to drop your leaves. Let's do it on 3. 1, 2. But Little Tree just hugged his leaves tight, and all around, the forest grew and grew until one summer, Little Tree couldn't feel the sunlight anymore. The squirrels played high above on broad branches, and the mourning dove sang so far away he could hardly hear her song. Autumn came again. Leaves blanketed the ground, and Little Tree looked at last at all of the others, their branches reaching up. He remembered when they had been his size. And then he let go. He let his leaves go. And for the first time felt the harsh cold of winter. It was not super pleasant. But in time, something happened, like it always does, and spring came and buds came, and until his little leaves unfurled in that pale green of spring and spread, and he grew. And where once there was a little tree, now there was a whole forest. You can join with me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Let's take a breath together. Let's take a sigh together of all of the accumulated weight of 2024. Yes. Do that like 11 more times right now. This is called Release by Peter Friedrichs. He says, I wish I were like the trees who let their leaves go gracefully, without regret. I wish I was like the tumbling stream that flushes silt to the sea, exchanging murkiness for blessed clarity. I wish I was like the dandelion who bows its head to the subtle breeze, unleashes its future without fear or loss. Instead, I drive white-knuckled, defensive, as we were taught, tense and guarded for what might come my way. I keep a death grip on my life. And if you asked me for my dying wish, it would not be 10 more wishes. It would be to let go of wishing anymore. Wishing I'd made different choices, wishing that I hadn't hurt you as I did. It would be to forego these old and dusty grudges that I keep like pictures in a shoebox beside my bed. I long to embrace my life with a lover's touch as you would an injured wren, precious, tender, true. Instead, regret and fear, twin anchors, hold me fast, close in against the shore. Cast off, I hear them calling from open, exotic lands my heart yearns for. But the waters in between my here and theirs hold unknown hazards, unlike this dark, familiar port. So this day, a prayer to ease my grip on what once was or what is meant to be, that I may find myself content to drift and float upon life's sea. We'll be together in silence for a few moments. Amen. This week, we hold in the love of this community and in great joy Mary Clough, who writes, "My daughter Kate had a baby girl on December 16th. All are well and beautiful." For all the joys and the hopes and the sorrows that are held in this community, we see you and we're in it with you. When we say that our mission is in part to always love, it means that we actively seek connection and compassion across borders and boundaries. And this ritual we're about to do of burning away what we wish to leave behind is just the same. On the one hand, this is a private and a personal act. What you've written down is known only to you. And yet it's also a communal act, a public act, a visible act. Each of us has something to leave behind in this old year, not in shame and self-flagellation, but to make room for what's to come in our lives, to wake up to the present. As we turn to the new year, we take a final glimpse of this past. And for those meeting in person, as the music begins in a moment, I invite you to come forward, starting with the back half of the room and then folks on the side, then the front. Jack and I will be here in front as two at a time you come forward to let the old year go and burn what you want to leave behind. There are tongs here if you'd prefer not to chance your fingers. You can also hand that paper to Jack or I. We'll be happy to do that for you if you don't trust your hand. That's just fine. And as you do, the invitation, just like when we do the stones ritual each week, is to hold at the center what your piece of it is, right? To hold what do you want to let go of, to fix that fast with intention, to let this be the start of that process, not once and over and done. And at the same time, to notice and feel your way into everyone else around you, doing their own work too, together in community. As you're moved, I invite you to come forward to burn the old year away. Elizabeth Gilbert tells this story. She says, years ago, I was stuck on a crosstown bus in New York City during rush hour. Traffic was barely moving. The bus was filled with cold, tired people who were deeply irritated with each other, and in fact, with the whole world. Two men barked at each other about a shove that may or may not have been intentional. Pregnant woman got on, no one offered her a seat. Rage was in the air. But as the bus approached 7th Avenue, the driver got on the intercom. Folks, he said, I know you've had a rough day and you're frustrated. I can't do anything about the weather or the traffic, but here's what I can do. As each of you gets off the bus, I'm going to reach my hand out, and as you walk by, drop your troubles in my palm as you go. Don't take them home. Don't take them home with you. Just leave them here, because this route goes right by the river. I'm just going to open it up, toss it out when I get there. And it was like a spell had lifted. Everyone on that bus burst out laughing. And people gleamed with delight and surprise. And people who had been pretending so hard not to notice that other people existed suddenly were grinning at each other. Like, is this guy serious? And he was. At the next stop, the driver reached his hand out, palm up, and waited. And one by one, all of the exiting commuters placed in his hand. They mimed dropping something there. And some people laughed as they did it. And some people teared up as they did it. But everyone did it. And then the driver repeated that same lovely ritual at the next, and I got off, but I've got to imagine he kept on doing it all the way to the river and threw them out the window. As the year unwinds, as we reach its very end, this last bit, this moment of running out of road of 2024, our hope and our intention is to leave behind those things that we don't want to carry forward. But even more than that, the goal and the work isn't to do it perfectly, is not to have returned home this afternoon saying to yourself, aha, I intended to release this thing. I burnt it on paper. I don't even remember what it was anymore. That's how perfectly and completely I have released it. That's not the goal. The goal is to start the process. But also, on some level, the work is about becoming conscious of what it is that you're holding on to, that you want to let go of. What's all the stuff that is in your backpack that you are lugging around with you day after day that you have no idea is there? We went camping a couple of times last summer and then in the fall without enough blankets to actually stay warm, but it was a good adventure. But my experience of that, because I'm not a super experienced camper, is I go to the bins and I pull it out and I open up the pack and I discover inside a random collection of things that I don't know how they got there, though surely I must have put them there. And the work, before I pack the little car as full as it can possibly go of stuff for us, is to lay it all out, to spread it out wide, to take every single thing out of the backpack, wondering how it got in there and if I actually need to bring it or not. That's the work at the end of the year, with all of our baggage and all of our tools, some of which may have served you well in the past. Sometimes you need focus and attention to get through a difficult stretch. Sometimes you need to guard your heart closely and put your walls up to make it through a difficult time. And it's not that you shouldn't have done that. It's not that you are wrong to have done that. The question is that still what you need to do now? And maybe it is. But be intentional. Are you packing that for this next trip or leaving it behind? In ritual, in contemplation, in consideration, The work is weighty, but it also unfolds in the middle of exactly ordinary life. The calendar marks a pause in the year, a time that we can give meaning to say this is the moment to set down, this is the moment to spread out all of our emotional baggage and decide what to carry on with. But that's work for any day. And hope happens in the middle of ordinary time. It's the fourth day of Hanukkah today, this remembrance of a uprising more than 2,000 years ago in which people freed themselves, threw off a colonizer, and lit the lamps in the temple to consecrate it once again. Hanukkah's 8 days long because when the Jews then relit the lamps, they only had oil enough for one day, but it lasted for 8. And here's the miracle of the thing. It lasted long enough until new consecrated oil could be brought to light it. But I heard once that in the story of Hanukkah, the most interesting part, the important part, was not really the battles or the revolution. It's not about political or religious freedom. The most important part wasn't about the miracle of oil burning for 8 days. The thing that's relevant in that story for us, 2 millennia later, isn't that the laws of physics were suspended. The thing that matters, and the thing that we carry forward into this year, is that the people who lit those lamps knew they only had enough oil for one day, and they lit them anyway. They lit them not expecting that they would burn for 8 days, not knowing how the story would end. They only knew what they had, and that it was possible for a little bit of light to shine. And not naively, not cynically, but resolute and grounded and steady, they lit this light in darkness and did what they could with what they have. That's our work too. That's the center of the story that still matters to us all this time gone by. It's not to set down perfectly everything that you no longer wish to carry forward, those things that don't serve you. It's to start where you are and do what you can with what you have for yourself and for this world around us. Amen. We're going to sing together a song I think we haven't sung before. No, this is a Gordon Bach tune with words by an old Unitarian out from the Northeast for the turning of the year. Will you rise and body your spirit? Join in singing.
And just so you know how this is going to go, you all have the chorus, and I will do my best to do the Emily with the hands so you know where you're going. And Bill and I will sing the verses to begin with, and then I'll bring you all in for the chorus. All righty? Sky and dark the land and dark the running sea. Oh, lay your hand upon my hand and share the night with me. 2 friends we had and foes we had and foes that held us. We raise the glass to lad and lass at turning of the year. And one more road and one more hill and one more stony shore. One more river to cross until we're home again once more. 2 friends we
Robin and Bill, thank you for taking us to an Irish pub today.
It was David's recommendation.
This month, the entire offering goes to support the missions and the ministries of UUCB. As a community, we are entirely self-sustaining through our own contributions. We don't get money from a denomination or income, and the income from rentals, while important, is but a small sliver of our budget. Instead, we embrace the notion of self-governance and self-sustainability. We talk about money directly without guilt or shame or anxiety. And the fact is, it takes money to make this place possible. So in that spirit, I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online or in the room, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. And again, you can use a QR code to make a donation, but the ushers will now pass the baskets for those that want to contribute. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace, love, and justice to the Boulder community.
Don't let us get sick, don't let us get old, don't let us get stupid, alright. Just make us be brave and make us play nice, and let us be together tonight. The sky was on fire as I walked to the mill to take up the slack in the line. And I thought of my friends and the trouble they've had to keep me from thinking of mine. Don't let us get sick, don't let us get old, don't let us get stupid, alright. Just make us be brave and make us play nice, and let us be together tonight. The sky, the moon has a face that smiles on the lake, causes the ripples in time. And I'm lucky to be here, someone I like, who makes my spirit to shine. Don't let us get sick, don't let us get old, don't let us get stupid, alright. Just make us be brave and make us play nice, and let us be together tonight.
I'll close with these words from the poet Lucille Clifton. I'm running into a new year. I'm running into a new year, and the old years blow back like a wind that I catch in my hair, like strong fingers, like all my old promises, and it will be hard to let go of what I said to myself about myself when I was 16 and 26 and 36, even 36, but I am running into a new year. And I beg what I love and I leave to forgive me. We rise in body or in spirit as we close in song.